give you an opportunity at the end to share any questions that you might have. Before we start, it is important to know and be grounded on the children that we are servicing through this budget. Here you have a quick look at our district at a glance. We provide services to over 19,000 students in 41 school facilities. We are very proud of the racial, ethnic, cultural, and linguistic diversity of our students. I hope you can also gather from this chart the high level of need for the population we are servicing. 75% of our students are economically disadvantaged. 2.6% are experiencing homelessness, and almost 38% require special programming, with 15.7% of students with disabilities and 22.1% multilingual learners. This proposed budget aims to give our students the promise of a public education that can prepare them to meet the success in the future. Now I am going to turn it over to Chief of Staff, Ms. Hannons, to walk you through the cost drivers and projections of our 24-25 budget. Ms. Hannons.
Good evening. As Dr. Negron mentioned today, I will be talking about the cost drivers and other things that are built into our budget. So if you look at this slide, it talks about the different funding streams. And as you can see, some of the schools get more than they get Commissioners Network funding, Title I funding. And we're also showing in this slide that the students that are EL, and we also are showing you the type of schools, whether it's a neighborhood school or whether it's a suburban school. Here we're showing you the key trends of our historical enrollment. So you can see that since 2017, we have had declining enrollment. And for this year, 2024, we went up by maybe a couple of students, but we are still trending in the 19,000 plus students. Here, it just this key, also with the key trends, it shows you the New Haven ECS and Alliance funding. And as you can see, the ECS funding has been stable for quite a few years now. And then any additional funding that we get comes by way of the Alliance grant. So you can see there where we've had a slight increase, and we're expecting a slight increase in fiscal year 24-25. Also with the grants, you can show, and this slide is very, very important because it's showing like during the COVID times, we were in fiscal year 21-22, you can see we were over $200 million in grants. And you could see now we're starting to show the decline in grants as the grants are sunsetting, with ARP ESSER 2 sunsetting in September the 30th of this fiscal year. So you can see that we're now leveling off back to the basically to the grant year of 2016-17. And that's very important to show that, you know, it's a steady decline. Also, in the key trends, we're showing you basically the different types of grants that we've had since 22-23 and what we received in 23-24. And here you can also see the decline, where in 24-25, we are expecting grant revenue of basically $97.6 million. And all of those funds are basically what we consider as entitlement grants, grants that we would get regardless. This slide here shows how our schools are funded. And so you can see the blue are the state grants, the private grants are less than 9%. And our state and local is where we get the bulk of our funding from. Now, I must point out that when you see this state and local funds with the 203, it's going up to the 203 because of the fact that the grant slide is going down. In order to make it 100%, we had to cut the pie accordingly. So with our initial projection for 24-25, we had asked for 207 and we were approved for 203. And now our budget is 203, 264. And for the next fiscal year, we're asking for $220 million, which is a difference of 16.8, which is a difference of 8, which is a percentage of 8.27% increase. Here we're showing you the revenue assumptions. So what we've done is gone back a couple of years to show the differences. And if you look at the education cost share, you can see that the amounts are stable going across the board. And then when you see the Alliance grant, you'll see the differences that the state has been giving us because the education cost increase has not gone up. Our local tax dollars are this line here represents the amount of money that we would get from the city. And then with our inter-district grant, which is another grant that we have, we're showing a decrease in revenue as well. And also our tuition billing, it's going up just slightly, and that's because of some changes that we've made, but not enough to even make a dent. And so you can see that the ECS remains the same. Alliance, of course, any increases that we get will always be in the Alliance grant itself, which comes with its own requirements. You just can't use it to fill voids or deficits. And then the inter-district grant, of course, is $400,000. We're looking at a decrease, and that's because they haven't given us the cost of living. And then the tuition is due to new strategies to potentially increase our revenue. Okay, now I'm going to turn it over to Christine Bourne, who actually puts a lot of these numbers in the format after we've looked at everything. So I'm going to let her explain that chart.
Thank you, Linda. This chart represents our current approved budget for fiscal year 2024. That's the green column. The next column is our request that includes contractual requirements. As you can see, there are some areas where there were no increases because there are no contractual required increases. We did provide the numbers for the superintendent's new initiatives that you'll hear about in the later part of this presentation. And we did take a 3% decrease to be respectful of the process and to account for attrition and hopefully being able to, as people retire, hiring at some more lower prices. But this represents the full ask with only the contractual requirements and the few new initiatives. This pie chart tells you the percentage of spending. As you can see, the full-time personnel is at 56.3%, part-time at 2.1%. What's interesting about this is you'll see the next slide where we're actually losing percentage points in our plant operations and instruction and other areas. So the cost of personnel is driving an increase in the budget, which then does not give us the opportunity to expand in these other areas. So if you look at these percentages and look at the next slide, where the percentages are slowly moving, that personnel is costing more for the portion of the budget than other areas. So here's this year's current, so that's 57% for personnel. Where the other one was 56.3, 2% for part-time. Instructions at 14%, where this year it's only at 12.9. So we want to move that instruction piece up as we're looking at the personnel costs.
So as you just heard from Ms. Yannins and also from Ms. Bourne, we are in need of an 8.27% increase to meet the contractual requirements of the staffing, tuition, transportation, utilities, and the maintenance of our buildings that is necessary to provide an education to our children. But we also need to make investments to continue to provide them what they need. And we were very fortunate to have the additional federal support that you saw earlier in the column chart that Ms. Hannon shared with you, where you saw the influx of ARP and ESSER funds that came into the district as a result of the pandemic. But those funds are now done. They are over. And we must and we need to continue to invest to again ensure that we are staying true to the promise of a public education. We need to invest in high quality teaching and learning by ensuring that we have core academic teachers to support with the over enrollment that we are experiencing in some of our buildings, as well as increasing information technology supports. We need to also invest in academic supports by having bilingual instructional coaching supports to strengthen our capacity to support the large number of multilingual learners. We need to invest in mental health supports. We have seen all the challenges that even existed before the pandemic, but have continued to grow. And we know that our kids continue to need those supports. So we need to increase student supports staff, such as the number of social workers, the number of counselors, and the number of school psychologists that we have available to support the mental health needs of our students. We need to continue to invest in communication supports to ensure that we can have true partnerships with our families. We need to invest in our career and college pathways. We have been able to build a strong foundation with the use of those ESSER dollars, but we have to deepen and expand those partnerships to not only engage our students, but also to ensure that they have a path after graduation, whether it be through college or straight to career of their choosing. Meaning, how do we strengthen those career internships? How do we increase the number of dual enrollment? So all those things cost a lot of dollars. And again, we have been able to create a strong foundation through ESSER dollars, but we need to continue the good work that has started in our district. And we definitely need to invest in safe learning environments by strengthening our cybersecurity and by increasing the number of school security guards, as well as the number of tradesmen that take care of our facilities. So those are all the investment that I am hoping you're going to be able to support us with by supporting this proposed budget that comes with that 8.27% increase so that we can continue to do right by our students. Now I'm going to turn it back to Ms. Hannon to continue to explain some of those proposals.
Okay. With the notable cost drivers, I just want to point out that 86% of our general fund costs are for personnel, out of district tuition, and transportation. Doesn't leave us much of anything else. Essentially, all of our full-time staff are part of the collective bargaining unit agreements. Our four largest bargaining units, the following changes are in place for 24-25, and as you can see, they're just basically the general wage increases. Our paraprofessionals are still in negotiation, and our management contract has been approved. All other salary changes are still to be negotiated. So we have the transportation contract renewal for 24-25, and the anticipated increase was 3%. Our price escalation is also spelled out in long-term agreements and contracts, which are the building maintenance, tuition, and et cetera. So as you can see from this slide, there are not many other places of revenue because all of our revenue, again, is covered by just the basic general fund tuition and transportation costs, plus building and maintenance into the system. Okay. I'm going to turn over to Christine again.
So this slide just represents a snapshot of the forecasted report for this year. It looks at this point where we're at a $4 million deficit, but we are working to reduce that and expect and hope to get that balanced. Things change throughout the year, so that is a floating number, but we're in a good place to move forward and get that to a good place. But it is just to show you that the teachers, the staff, the benefits, those costs, as you can see, are in red, are not fully funded for this year, and we use our revenue to support balancing those lines. So this is where just a picture of where we're at right now.
Okay, now we're just going to the budget timeline to tell you where we are at this point. We've had we've gone to the board already, and we have our first community forum. Our second community forum will be next week at 6 o'clock at Wilbercross in the atrium. And after that, we would go to the hearing for the Board of Aldermen, which is April 11th. And then finally, we will adopt the budget sometime in May of 2024. And these are just items, what we don't know. We still don't know with grant funding, especially respect to Alliance, what we're going to get in the future increases. As those numbers become available, we will include those in our budgets. The effect of the declining enrollment will have effect on all grants, costs due to unfunded mandates, increased costs for healthcare and other benefits, impact of inflation on goods and services, as well as increasing costs for special education services and outplacement. And then our final thoughts were, basically around the New Haven ESSER grant and the ARP ESSER grants and what they have done with, what they have done to our school district. We've designed some robust academic programs and other improvements for our children. As we all know, the $80 million, which was the total, is now going away, and we will continue to utilize these funds to the extent that's allowable. But the feds have made it clear that ARP ESSER will end on September 30th, 2024. Due to the increased costs mentioned early in my presentation and a decrease in grant revenue, we will face projected deficit of $8 million. We will need to explore new sources of funding opportunity, as well as continuing the challenges to close the gap. This may entail a reduction of services, programs, and operations. I am now going to turn it back to Dr. Negron for final thoughts.
Thank you. So as you've seen and as you've heard, we started the year with a $3.8 million deficit, right? From the amount that was requested for 23-24 and the amount that was actually received. We have been chasing mitigation all year long. And now as we're looking ahead for the next year and thinking about the fact that we're not going to have those ESSER dollars, the challenge becomes greater and greater. As I shared at the beginning, we are giving you a true cost of what it takes to run this district. I'm sure you have been following the news that this is not just a New Haven issue. This is a challenge that many districts are facing right now in terms of the increased inflation. Everything has gone up. We're all losing the federal support. And again, we still have children that come to us every day that are coming to make sure that we are doing right by them so that we can realize the promise of a public education. I am asking you, the entire community, to help us by supporting this proposed budget so that we can continue to bring the best resources that we can to every single child across all of our 41 schools. And again, to make sure that we have the best teachers in front of them, that we try to do the best with the aging facilities that we have right now. But in order to do that, again, I am asking for your support of this 8.27 increase in our proposed budget. So now we are going to pause so that we can have an opportunity to read the questions that have come forth so that we can answer as many of those as possible.
At this time, you can enter questions in the Q&A section, which is the fourth button on the bottoms of the screen, the Q&A button, and enter questions. The first question that had come in was, would this recording be available? Yes, this is available on youtube.com/@NHPS TV, and it will be posted to the website as well.
Any other questions?
At the moment, none.
Okay, so with that, again, I just want to express my gratitude for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and hear us present this proposed budget. I hope. Go ahead.
Okay. Behavioral specialists are in short supply. Are there any efforts to increase their presence?
So as I mentioned, I am seeking some additional dollars to be able to increase or support staff. Primarily right now, that could come in the form of, as I mentioned, social workers, counselors, school psychologists. So those are the type of staffing that we are looking at, that we have observed are able to support the needs of our students. Again, this is a proposal. We are constantly looking at the needs across our buildings to determine what are the supports that we need to bring forth to better serve the needs of our students.
Okay. That's all. What will you need to cut if the Board of Alders does not provide the 12 million?
That is a great question. Right now, we have been going through a process that I am describing as right sizing, where I'm taking an opportunity to look at the enrollment in every single building and seize any opportunities that we have if we can combine classrooms and then be able to take that certified teacher and send them to another building that we know has been vacant, so that we can be more equitable to ensure that we have certified staff in front of every child across the district. We are going to continue to do that process, meaning keep all the talented staff that we have so that we do not have to let go of anybody. That is the first strategy and my first priority right now. I don't want to let go of anyone. Again, I'm sure you are following the news just this morning. My friends up in Hartford, right, we're talking about the number of jobs that they're going to have to cut. Please know that we are doing our hardest to ensure that it doesn't have to come to that. So right now, that is why we are right sizing. That is strategy number one, so that we don't have to cut. We're also taking advantage of the new transportation contract to take a close look at all of our routes to see if there are any opportunities there so that we can save dollars in transportation. We are going to continue to look at everything. Just like we are doing right now, we're getting ready to release our summer learning opportunities, meaning that we had to create a coherent plan, cut down a little bit so that we don't have to spend the millions of dollars that we traditionally spend in the summer, so that all of that could help us in the 24-25 budget, because summer is part of that. So those are all the things that we're looking at right now to ensure that we do not have to cut. But it means the best example that I can give you, right? When we all go shopping, we go, I don't know about you, but I go shopping with a budget. And sometimes it means that I cannot splurge on the type of ice cream that I want to buy, if I want to use that example. It means that I'm going to have to look. How else, if I want to have ice cream, is there a cheaper ice cream that I can buy? And maybe I can't splurge on whatever that top end is, so I can cut back. Or it might mean, you know what? I can't afford to have ice cream. It is a nice thing to have, but right now I can't afford to have the ice cream. So those are all the very difficult decisions that are going to come if we do not have a budget that is supported, because what we are showing you are the true costs of funding this district.
And along that line, will class size increase if the BOA Board of Law does not approve the full request?
Another great question. You saw in one of our slides that we spoke about meeting all of the contractual requirements. With that, it means that we will continue to have what is by contract, the number of students that should be in a classroom. We will not exceed that number that is right now in the contract.
Questions going once? Twice? We can close.
Okay, so again, thank you again for the time. And I urge you to come out and support this budget. I appreciate the level of trust that you have given me as the leader of this amazing district. But I need you to come and support me in this process. We are going to be doing this presentation one more time in person next Tuesday at the Wilbur-Cross Atrium. So I invite you to come and be with us there. I believe it is at 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock, and we will be there available to translate it as well. And then most importantly, please come and join me in masses on Thursday, April 11th. That is the day that we have to go before the Board of Alders to present our budget and express why it is that we are asking for this 8.27% increase. So again, I hope that you will come and you will join me. And with that, again, I want to thank you, and I hope to see you soon. Gracias.